Hey, Mark, don't worry. It affects more than 15,000 Americans today, and it usually shows up between the ages of 35 and 40. So it's okay at this point because one of your parents had it because it's an autosomal dominant, meaning just one copy from a single parent can lead to you having this disease. Since you just found out, some symptoms of this disease might be uh, hallucinations, paranoia, dementia, trouble walking, jerking movements. There might be some other decline in your mental skills, such as the ability to plan and organize, concentrate, judgment skills, thinking and reasoning skills are going to start to decline a lot. But there is some therapy we can do to fix this. There's no way to divert the course of Huntington's disease, but there are ways we can get better with it through therapy, such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, uh, or we can talk with a psychiatrist if you want. You can also join speech therapy, but if those really don't seem to be working out as a last resort, which I really do not recommend, uh, we can start finding drug usage. I really don't recommend this. This is a last choice event. I don't recommend drugs to any of my patients. I'll put up the prices and side effects so you can see. If you look at the side effects, you'll understand why I really don't recommend taking these drugs. Uh, there's the side effects are very strong, and I really don't recommend taking these. If you want to learn more, tell me. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you the genetic basis. I'll try to oversimplify it for you. The gene affected by this is a gene called the HTT gene. This gene is responsible for making a protein called Huntingtin. If you didn't know, genes also make our proteins. It makes a protein called Huntingtin, which is responsible for neurons activities. Uh, this defect is dominant. That's why you have it. You inherited it for one parent. This trait is heterozygous, which means your alleles, like I'll put up an image right now to picture you. The allele H, it's dominant because there's like something like you see in the box in the Punnett square. It's called uh you see H, you see a capital H and the small H. That the big H and the little H makes a dominant trait because the bigger H is overpowering the little H. This causes you that big H has the HTT, the trait has your uh, that has your trait for Huntington. So it dominates over the smaller gene, and this is why you have it. As you can see, since your mother didn't have it, her genes are mixed in with some of your father's genes too. So that means there's a 50-50 chance of you getting it, and it happens to be that you did have it, that you unfortunately did have it. This condition, this gene will repeat 10 to 35 times. This it codes for the amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. Uh, I'll include I'll include images right here. They're the building blocks of protein, which mean, and there are many different types. But the same one, the CAG amino acids, the CAG, which is the cytosine, adenine, and guanine, which are some of the building blocks for DNA. I'll put up an image too. it's going to repeat 10 to 35 times in your protein, which causes this trait to be dominant. And this causes neurodivergent symptoms. If you want to learn more about how it's inherited, it's which I said before, it's autosomal dominant, which means it's going to keep repeating until it's going to keep repeating in the trait, and they'll get passed on to you. And I said before, you have a 50% chance, depending on if both of your parents have inherited this trait, or if only one parent inherited this trait. It will be most likely passed on to your offspring. There's a 50% chance still, and it will probably be passed on to future generations, depending on if your children are carriers of this trait. Now, my recommendation about you asked about genetic testing, right? There is, as I said before, there's a 50% chance of your child inheriting this trait. I do recommend that you do take this test, but it can affect the fetus. It can affect the fetus, which can cause other problems because you are planning to go on with this pregnancy and with this birth. So there is a chance for failure within the fetus. But if you really want, the positive side is you can learn, you can prepare. Uh, the question of how this can affect your child's choice making might be questioned. That the child will, if the child does inherit this trait, they'll start to experience the symptoms, as I said before, between the ages of 35 and 40. Uh, so they really won't have a choice but to see a doctor, depending on if they inherit this disease, and they will experience these symptoms. So they won't be ignoring these symptoms, and they will have to see a doctor. I do recommend this genetic testing because you can learn to prepare your child, but there is a chance that it might affect the child pregnancy. Uh, I'll I'll send you to a doctor to see, and I'll tell him about the concerns I have, and we'll see then. If you want to contact me, I'm available at my office. That's my recommendation to you. Thank you, Mark.